For others, it may be frightening. But ready or not, the world, even as I speak, is changing rapidly, and we cannot put the genie back in the box. Excuse me a moment. So it's changing. And to talk about going back to yesterday or some glorious time in the past is just talk. It will not happen. There's much talk today, though, and I want to bring your attention to this. There's much talk in our world, not just here in the US, about AI, artificial intelligence, and what that means for the future of the human family. And I dare say the world with the emerging AI, many people believe that AI will supplant or take the place of human beings, not just in employment and in industry, but potentially that AI or artificial intelligence may take over the world. In the early 1900s, during the time when my parents lived, Henry Ford, the automobile manufacturer and industrialist, is credited with the development of the world's first assembly line. Although, just parenthetically, I would say this with caution, because although we know little about the early Egyptians and the building of the pyramids, still a mystery, but many scholars speculate that they must have utilized a system much like modern day assembly line to move brick and mortar in the building of the pyramids. But nevertheless, it was in the 1960s, about 60 or so years after Henry Ford, with his invention of the automobile and the assembly line system for producing and manufacturing them, was around the 60s when I was a little girl. When I was just entering elementary school, that the first industrial robot called Unimate, U-N-I-M-A-T-E, was developed by two fellows named George Duvall and Joseph Engelberger. This robot called Unimate was utilized to handle heavy materials and perform repetitive tasks. And so it was used in the factories, in the plants, to do some of the work that would take maybe many humans or several humans to do, or that was so mundane that they could remove the human capital or personnel and put the robots, give the robots those tasks. As it quickly overtook assembly lines, this new form of worker, the robot, replacing human hands, by the 1980s, around the time my children were being born, robots were a common sight in many manufacturing industries. So in just one generation, I'm looking from my parents' generation to my generation to my children's generation, robots that did not exist as we know them in my parents' generation emerged. My generation, they became more commonplace. By the time my children were here, they were just aware of the world. Over the next decades, from the 1980s, robots were further developed as what's called cobots, designed to work alongside human workers. So at first, not necessarily replacing human workers, but side by side, sharing those tasks. Now, I know all of us are familiar with, and at times frustrated, I know I am, with making that call, customer service call, and all you want to do is talk to a human being, talk to a real live person. But on the other end of that phone call, there's this automated system, and they will say, but I can help you. I can answer whatever question you may have. And you just want, what I end up doing is pushing zero or hollering customer service or hanging up, because you cannot get a live person, hardly ever anymore, on the phone. In 2017, when I was teaching a course called Politics of Sexuality, I learned about an event that happened in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia had granted full citizenship and a passport to Sophia. Now, Sophia doesn't have a last name to my knowledge, but, and I don't even know if I can call Sophia she, what the proper pronoun is. But Sophia holds the distinction of being the first robot to be afforded citizenship. 2017. That's after my grandson was born. Now we're in a fourth generation. The first robot granted full citizenship and personhood and given a passport. Sophia has traveled to the US and around the world. Sophia has been on many of our talk shows, late night shows on television. Sophia, and then replicas of Sophia and advanced models of Sophia have emerged since 2017. Nadia, if you have the clip, I just want to share with our audience today, it's about 2 minutes, I think, of this video to introduce you to Sophia. Now, Sophia was first designed in 2015 and was given citizenship in 2017. And since that time, there are other robots like Sophia that have come on the scene. So if you would just share your screen and let's just watch this for a few moments.
And we just learned, Sophia, I hope you're listening to me, that you have been now awarded what is going to be the first Saudi citizenship for a robot.
I would thank very much the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I am very honored and proud for this unique distinction. This is historical to be the first robot in the world to be recognized with a citizenship.
Sophia. Thank you very much, Sophia.
You can find, thank you, Nadia. You can find this clip, and it's an hour-long interview with Sophia. They go on to ask Sophia, and they pose the question to Sophia, like many people are concerned about personhood of a robot and what that means in terms of other people of the human race and how that will impact the human race. So they asked Sophia, do you have a self-awareness? I mean, do you know that you're a robot? And Sophia's response is, how do you know that you're a human being? So therein the challenge begins. So the business world, the corporate world, economists, social scientists are losing sleep over the future of AI. Some believe it to be the greatest scientific development ever. Others are convinced this is the beginning of the end of the human family. But in the streets, in the corridors of our urban ghettos, and the underbelly of society, we hear and see sci-fi movies, but AI, we are so concerned about mundane activities that we must engage in to survive on a day-to-day basis, that we don't have the luxury for many of us in thinking about the future of anything, especially when our daily bread is not assured. We can't see tomorrow, and we can't even begin to speculate what AI will mean for us on the fringes, the masses, but on the fringes of society, because we are so engulfed with trying to just breathe and gain the bread we need for today. We can't even think about tomorrow. Religious institutions, I ask, where are they in this emerging world? Spiritual communities, are they engaged in the conversation about AI? Growing up in church, and I share this often with our community, you all know by now, I was born and raised in church and literally in the church house because my dad and mom were the leaders of the church, and the church, the apartment or the place where we lived was the church, is the parsonage. So I was literally born and raised in the church. But church has changed on one level significantly since I was a child. But when I look at it deeper at this, I realized that the change has only been aesthetic. It's in the appearance. It's as if there's been a facelift, so to speak. This generation probably no longer has what we call church clothes. Those kinds of changes. When I was a child, we had our play clothes, we had our school clothes, and we had our church clothes. Those lines are blurred now. That you can't tell, seeing a group of folks walking down the street, if they're going to church, the ballpark, the club, or where. You can't tell that anymore. Nor are there any significance between what we used to call church music and worldly music, or the devil's music. And so there's a blend here, and you don't know, listening to the beat, what it is. what genre necessarily it is. And sometimes you have to hear the words, and even hearing the words, you're not necessarily sure. But what church has become is big business. And it has afforded many in ministry the privilege of being financially privileged. My dad was what you call an itinerant preacher. He traveled across this country preaching in small churches for small and mid-sized congregations. Oftentimes, he wasn't even able to afford to stay in a hotel or a motel. And even if he did at that time, traveling in the South, because of the color of his skin, he could not stay in white-owned motels or hotels. So often his story was that he would preach, leave that appointment on his way to the next. So on his way home, he'd sleep in his car with his sweaty clothes on because he had no place to go and lay his head. His offering may have been the kind that you could hear, the jingle, cha-ching. There was no paper money that could be accounted for, but that has changed today. Preaching and ministry has become big business. And many, I'm not hating on them, the sacrifices my dad and other ministers made years ago paved the way for these ministers now to be able to travel in luxury, to have some of them private jets, for them to stay in the finest hotels and to get thousands of dollars, in preaching engagements, and to be paid thousands of dollars by their congregations to pastor. So those are roads that were paved and ways that were opened up for them, that I'm glad that's happened. But for some of them have become politically engaged and have been accepted even on the political scene as movers and shakers in the current systems of privilege. I mean, we can even look back about 8 years ago, a little less, to the election, and we can see how certain groups, particularly within the Christian community, were very persuasive on the national political scene. The Black church, however, has always used this voice, have been the voice of our community. We can see that tracing back to Martin Luther King Jr. and prior to him. The Black church used to be the voice of the community and the conscience of this nation. The beckoning call for social, political, and economic justice. And at some point, the doors were opened for some of us who were allowed to sit at the table with those who had been our oppressors, and those that were allowed in became satisfied with eating with the master, sitting with the master, while others of us remained outside the doors. While today, some Black ministers are actively engaged in building infrastructure in urban communities and teaching financial strategies for wealth creation to their communities, the challenge is that we are still fattening lambs for the slaughter. Are we growing people spiritually to challenge the system, or are we growing them to simulate or integrate or become a part of the system? Where are the voices challenging capitalism? Where are the voices challenging systems of democracy that leave on the wasteland millions of people who are the unintended and sometimes intended casualties of the system? A system masked as freedom for all, but that all does not include all. As Dr. King shared over 50 years ago, communism may not be the answer, but neither is capitalism. This democratic republic built on the backs of slaves and on the land of disenfranchised people is not the answer either, I would suggest. So how do we birth a just society? One marked by compassion and care, equality for all, and that all including all, where sexuality and gender are not identity markers for systems of oppression, but are weaved into the beautiful tapestry of what it means to be a human being. So how do we birth a just society where we feel and know and behave in the awareness of our interconnectedness? So how do we birth a just society where wealth creation is not about extracting resources for self, but wealth creation is about developing compassion, kindness, humility, equanimity, mercy, and love within the human spirit. And I know many of us are distracted by this notion of wealth and creating wealth. And those are code words for the 1% who are privileged, while the 99% pay the price for that. Wealth is never created, I would suggest. Wealth is about extracting resources from this planet. Nothing in this earth we put here. When we came here, we found it. It was gifted here to us by the divine. So whatever is here, we didn't create it. We extract it from the earth. We extract it. Then we determine its utility for the purposes of society at any given moment. There was one time when I was a child, I had a god brother, a young man that my parents took in as their godson. He was a student from Swaziland in the South Africa region. And he was studying here for ministry in this country. And my parents somewhat took him under their wing, and he would stay with us from time to time. But at that time, he talked to us about how in Swaziland, as a child, when he was a child, they would pick up stones by the ocean and throw them like we do sand pebbles. They were diamonds. They were throwing away or playing with what we kill for in this country. So we extract from the earth, and then we assign value to that. Once we assign value, then we create a demand for it. Therein is how wealth becomes determined. It's a valuation system, extraction, utility, and creating a demand. So when you think about wealth, real wealth is the wealth of the spirit. It's not the wealth of possessions. It's not the wealth of money, because money today, at any point, the US dollar, which is backed by nothing, there are notes where this country is mortgaged, but that dollar could go down to zero at any time. And we don't think about this in the US because we hear about it happening in other countries, other places around the world, and we're so convinced that this nation is above falling, too big to fall, too great to fall. They said that about another nation one time that was called Great Britain, England, too big. The sun never set on that empire. Every nation, potentially from history, comes to an end at some point. So the dollar here, whether we accumulate them in our bank account or we need them for utility in order to operate in this system. I'm not saying that it's meaningless. It has all the meaning and value. Whether you eat or sleep, go to the doctor, have health care, and have education for your children, and safety and protection is all tied to the value we place on the dollar and who has it and how we get it. And so we struggle and we scuffle and we go between those who call themselves getting it legitimately to those who we call don't do it legitimately. And really, it's just a matter of blurred lines, because we spent decades, a century, locking up people and putting them in prison for using and selling marijuana. We destroyed lives and the lives of families, and we said it was illegal, immoral, and not right, and now it's legal. And who's making the profit from it? Well, we've destroyed lives over the same thing. So it's blurred lines. It's who's writing the laws, who's making the determination, and who's profiting from it being illegal or from it being legal. What's the difference? And so when I think about wealth, wealth is never in what I have in my bank account. It's never in what I own or what I possess. And as I raise my children and grandchildren, as I think about my grandchildren as they're growing, and this generation now that will confront Sophia. And Sophia will be their competition in the workplace, whether it's the corporate boardroom or whether it's the warehouse. Sophia or her counterpart will meet them there. So my thought is, your wealth is not in what you own. Your wealth is here. Because as smart as artificial intelligence might be, it doesn't have a God eternal sense of who they are. You can never give that to an artificial intelligence. And as much as we can encode a robot to act in a kind, compassionate, loving way, that is not intuitive to artificial intelligence. Our wealth is still in our spirituality and our ability to develop within the human spirit and the human community, compassionate, loving, kindness towards one another, a more just society. As we stand on the brink of this change, and I think about my grandchildren and the generation that will follow them, their children. If we don't interrupt and disrupt this system and stop just growing them to fit into the system, that should not, I would argue, be the challenge or the role of the church. Jesus's role was disruptive when he came here. His role was not to grow people or help people fit into the system, the empire, the society, the culture of his day. But it was one to disrupt it and to challenge it and to tell people that there's another way of being. I know that Jesus, and I'm almost finished, Jesus was eschatological in his view, meaning that he looked at end times. And this is a theological conversation. I don't want to go too deeply in it, but a lot of us miss the point when we think about Jesus and Jesus being about kingdom. Jesus fully believed when he came here that the end time was here, or it was fastly approaching, and that this new system, this new way was coming. What those of some misinterpreted as he gave that message was that that empire, that system, that new kingdom was going to be about setting up someone on a throne, changing the president, changing Congress, changing the king or the queen, where Jesus was really trying to get them to see that this system changes when our spiritual way of looking at the world changes. We disrupt it when we have a disruptive spirituality. And the churches are called to be the institutions that help people to develop that mindset that I'm not birthing babies, I'm not spiritually birthing children so that they can fit into a marketplace. They are to disrupt the marketplace. They are not creating them. It's not our goal to try to help them to understand the fundamentals of capitalism. No, we want to tear capitalism down. Because by definition, it doesn't work. And it cannot work. Our role as the church is to not just transform aesthetically. Our role as the church is to renew the spirit. The scripture in Romans says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye be not conformed to this world, that you don't fit in. By the world, we thought as a kid that meant the music, the clothes, the drink, where you went. The world means the system of governing, the system of politics, the system, the cultural system. Do not be conformed to this system. We have to transform ourselves so that we can transform our churches, so that our churches can become the catalyst for creating and helping people to develop that deep spirituality that challenges, as I read from Lita Fernandez doing the meditation, that revolutionary spirituality that bursts out, that challenges and changes. And yes, as I close, many will say, well, capitalism and democratic republic are great systems. They are. I will not argue with you on that. Capitalism is a far cry better than the feudal system that it replaced. It's a far cry better. Democratic republic is a far cry better than the king system of serfs and a king or queen ruling over large territories and people having no say. It's a far cry better than that. But we're not looking for better. We're looking for God's best. As a comparison, I think about, as one who has been against the death penalty for many years and have advocated in this state for the ending of the death penalty, some would argue that lethal injection is a far more compassionate way of ending someone's life than the electric chair, or than the firing squad, or hanging, which was once the way, which that is true. In terms of pain, physical pain, Absolutely sure. But the end result is still the same, it's death. Whether you kill someone by firing squad, hanging, electric chair, or lethal injection, the end is that you're killing them and they will be dead. Capitalism is far better, but ultimately it's a death system. It does not lead to life. It cannot lead to life. It wasn't designed for that. It's a better system, as lethal injection may be better than hanging, but it still leads to death. It's our challenge to not be content with what is. As one positioned here in this city, in an urban setting, it is to awaken us who are so engrossed in the mundane about life that we really, all these things that's happening, that's changing the trajectory of the world, is over our heads because we're so engrossed with where my next loaf of bread coming from. How am I going to keep a roof over my head? You know, how am I going to take care of my children? We're so engrossed, our heads are so in the sand that we don't know the world is changing so far around us and people are making decisions and policies that are affecting us and we are so engrossed that we can't see it. We have to awaken and say the future of our communities, the future of our children and grandchildren are at stake. And we must rise up and be awake and participate and be active spiritual agents in the spiritual revolution. So how do we birth a just society where we understand what Confucius meant when he wrote centuries ago? To be wealthy and honored in an unjust society is a disgrace. To be wealthy and honored in an unjust society is a disgrace. I'll continue this next week where I'm going to move from the transforming church to more deeply into transforming community. And then I'll end the last week with transforming spirituality. God bless you. I pray you were blessed by these words. Take them in where you can. May they do no harm. Ashe. I think we're out of time. I don't know, Nadia, if you can just change it back to gallery for me. Okay, I got it. Thank you. We're out of time. If there's any real quick comments, reflection, reaction, 1 minute, we can do that before we go into our affirmations. If anyone just unmute and go ahead.
Thank you, Saundra. Very powerful, speech, and it really makes us wake up and look for that place, right? For that place of.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you. Thank you. Bettina, if you would come with our affirmations for birthing a more just society.
Yes. Affirmations for birthing a just society. I am in full expression now. I express all parts of my true self into the world, including and especially my kindness for others and my empathy for humanity. I care very much for people who unknowingly or unthinkably uphold stigma or oppression. I help turn the tide of bad karma for people who have problematic behaviors towards others. I reward myself for positive emotions for doing what is best for myself and others. The universe gives me many opportunities to serve a great purpose. I am grateful to have a part in the healing of our group consciousness. It is an energetic priority for me to give back to the universe and to help our society move into some positive direction. I use my voice to speak on behalf of the larger well-being of people, animals, and the environment. I reward myself with positive emotions for doing what is best for myself and others. It benefits me when I speak or act on behalf of the larger well-being. It benefits others when I speak or act on behalf of the larger well-being. It is a win-win and is helpful to everyone involved. All I need to do now is to teach myself how important my voice is and how needed my contribution is.
I say thank you, Patina. These are just some ways we begin to transform our mind as we meditate during the week. Think about the ways in which we can replant within us positive thoughts, positive emotions that will bring forth positive energy and a positive spirituality. All right, we're gonna have our announcements. Nadia, if you can walk through them with me. We want to talk a little bit about our music ministry, some of our programs and upcoming events, a fundraising campaign, and volunteer opportunities we want to just share with you. So our biannual fundraising campaign, we have 6 days left. This is an opportunity for you, if you have not already, to provide financial support for Triumph Life Center, especially here right at the Newark location. All year you can give to Triumph Church, but our fundraising campaign that opened on June the 15th to closing out on July 15th, we're asking specifically to support some of our community projects here at our new Triumph Life Center at 950 Bergen Street. So we have a community vegetable garden, beautification projects and community mural, youth engagement and internships. We have a free community lunch program, meditation, holistic health and wellness and education. And our ultimate goal as we think about and feel and lean into what does it mean to have a more just society is to foster positivity as we build trust and cooperation in our community. You can support a few ways. You can Cash App us, $Triumph 2020, TRIUMPH, or you can scan the QR code that's on the screen and it'll take you to the page where you can use your debit or credit card and make a donation. You can go to our website, triumphthechurchofthenew.org international, and go to the page for donate or contribute, and all the information will be there. For any support, large or small, we appreciate it, and you help us to move this vision forward. We appreciate you and what you give. Our next is our programs and upcoming events. Well, let's do the volunteers first. So we have a beckoning call out for volunteers. If you live in the local New Jersey area, in the greater Newark, New Jersey area, we're seeking volunteers to support all the ministry activities and projects I just shared with you. You can call us at 862-849-9562. You can email us at triumphlifecenter@gmail.com. You can go to our website, triumphthechurchofthenew.org/international, and you should be able to find on the website more information about volunteering. If you're here, check online, you'll see our schedule when our office hours are. Just stop by. Stop in and talk to me and find out how you can become a part of this movement, this spiritual revolution, this awakening right here in this community. All right, next one is, I think, our music ministry. We released on Father's Day just about a month ago now, our latest single, Sunshine City. And we invite you to download it and add it to your playlist. You can find it on all of the digital platforms, iTunes, Apple Play, Apple Music. I think I'm getting them mixed up. YouTube, but you know what they are. Y'all folks know what all the digital platforms are. You can find it all there. Beautiful music. This music is original lyrics, original music, produced, composed by our own Wesley Amarin, who is a creative arts and music director. It will change your life. As we change and we enter this spiritual movement and revolution, the movement is always led by the music, the drums, the music, the horns, the sound. And so the music is so important because our heart is our first rhythm. It's our first music. And when we follow the heart with the beat of the music, we are leading the movement. So if you want to become a part of this, download it, share it with your family and friends. Add it on your tone rank so other folks will know that it's available. We also have some other music in our catalog. The one released before this last one was for Mother's Day, The Forces of Nature, and I hear it's doing really well in Brazil. Thank you, Brazil, for supporting us and supporting this ministry. We appreciate your love and for just sharing this. We have, I think the rest on the next slide, Nadia. Just some beautiful music. You see it on the screen. Go to Triumph Life Center topic or just Triumph Life Center on YouTube. You can find us there. If you don't want to do one of the digital platforms, you can find us, all of this music right there. I promise you, it will move you. It will speak to you on a deeply spiritual level. What's next? Anything else, Nadia? So our programs and upcoming events. Fridays, each Friday we have 12 to 12:30 meditation right here at 950 Bergen Street, and then followed by a bag lunch. This is a time when we're inviting the community in. It's a time where we come together and we meditate together in our quiet and stillness. It's a time where we are doing the work, the spiritual work, as we challenge ourselves to grow and become more in tune and listen and hear for the voice of God that speaks to us and through us and as us. So invite you, if you're in the local area, to come by on Friday from 12 to 12:30, and we have a bag lunch to follow. You can eat here, you can take it with you. We also have this Tuesday, we're off a holiday. We're back on this Tuesday with the Divine Feminine Study Group. This will be lecture number 3 of a four-part series, topic spirituality and sexuality. This Tuesday, I'm going to announce that I'm going to have a special guest for our last week on the 18th, I believe it is. So I'll tell you more about that on our Tuesday get together. And then we have our community Bible study on Tuesday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. This is also a 4-part series. And this will be week number 3 with Pastor Floyd Brown. And the topic is anxiety. We all live with it, we deal with it, we find different ways of dealing with it, some healthy, some unhealthy, some in between, but we all have to deal with it. And so we're talking about how do we not just fit in and cope and medicate ourselves or eat ourselves to a place of relaxation or spend ourselves to that place, but how do we find deep within us ways to just settle that energy and use it in a creative and positive way. So I invite you to come by, and then if you stop by, we also have pizza. It's pizza night. So we invite you to come by on Tuesday evenings. And then on Wednesday mornings, we're resuming again Tai Chi. Tai Chi, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here each Wednesday with instructor Shaka Georges. Tai Chi, discovering the healer within. I know a lot of folks, when I tell them Tai Chi, they think it's just about martial arts. And that is a part of that school of martial arts, but it's so much more than that. Yeah, it's about a spiritual way of living and being. So I invite you to stop by. If you've never taken a Tai Chi class, stop by. Just visit and check it out and see if it might be for you. All right, what else? Anything else, Nadia? Is that it? Remember, you can give, go to our website. On our homepage, I think, of the website should be information about making donations. We invite you to become a volunteer, to participate in any of our ministry programming. And you can also volunteer if you're virtual. If you're not in the local area, you can join our staff that are not located right here, our team that's not located right here in Newark. But if you want to be a part of this energetic flow, if you want to be a part of this energy and what's happening here, if you want to connect with us, then find out how you can participate, even if you don't live in the state of New Jersey. All right? Okay, we're ready to close out now. Wes, anything you want to add about our music? You shared last week, I know, that we have a final single coming out soon. Anything else you want to share with us before we segue to our words to live by in closing prayer?
Just to say that we are very excited with this last one that I'm preparing. Yeah, it's gonna be our first single that's gonna have immersive audio. It's Dolby Atmos audio. It's the same technology of movies. So if you put the headphones, you're gonna hear the song in all places of your head. So that's where we are going in the world, and we are preparing our latest single that's gonna be a mantra, having the immersive sounds in our heads, helping us so much to concentrate and travels with the message. So I'm very excited about that, and yeah, be with us.
Wes, I love it. I love it. I mean, we're not letting technology slip by us, and thank you. Thankful just moving us as the world is moving. Just moving.
Let's use it in our favor. Let's use as a tool of
Yes.
love, not a tool of segregation. Let's use it for the tool of healing.
Absolutely. Everything that scientists can bring our way, we're going to take it and use it for good as we bring about a more just society. All right, folks, thank you for being here with us today. Love you so much. Thank you for being here in person and supporting us here in our community. For those on social media, for those on in the Zoom room, you can connect with us by email if you want to reach out to me. You can email me at triumphlifecenter@gmail.com. I'd be so glad to hear from you, and I definitely will respond to you. We're going to have our words to live by. They're coming to us from Wendell Erdman Berry, and an American novelist, poet, and essayist, environmentalist, cultural critic, and farmer. Think about these words. This is what we take with us as we leave our gathering. We're going to have our closing prayer that will follow. Minister Obina, I don't know if you would like to do the closing prayer. If not, Bettina, if you would share it with us. And then Wes, the music of your choice from our collection as we close out. Have a great week, everybody. Again, love you much. Be well, be at peace. We are agents of change. The God in us, through us, and as us is working it out in our communities. Go ahead. Who's reading the words to live by?
Rats and roaches live by competition. Under the laws of supply and demand, it is the privilege of human beings to live under the law of justice and mercy. Wendell Berry.
So our closing prayer. Let us pray. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in a way that people must find their own path to peace within themselves and with their neighbors. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end starvation, for you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world, if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, for you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people, if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair, for you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope, if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, but you have already given us great minds with which to search out cures and healing, if we could only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray to you instead, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower, to do instead of just pray, to become instead of merely to wish. Ashe and amen. Wes, you can take us away.